The family of the young doctor who was gang raped and murdered in Kolkata has broken its silence and revealed the horrific ordeal that they have gone through, including the condition in which they found their daughter with multiple fractures, her pelvic girdle broken, her legs wrenched open. It is difficult yet essential to share these details to bring home the horror of what has gone down in the RG Kar Medical College in West Bengal. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. Our focus continues on the mass protests by young doctors, men and women everywhere in India. The epicenter of those protests, of course, is Kolkata in West Bengal, where what has happened is being called Nirbhaya 2.0. The media was late to what has happened, to putting it in the national consciousness, but we have been reporting this horror from day one. One arrest has been made, but all doctors are united in their consensus that the medical evidence points to a gang rape, which suggests that the other rapists, the other killers are still out there free. In the meantime, controversy has erupted as to whether there was an attempt to tamper with evidence and to remove evidence at the site of the crime. Videos have surfaced that show mysterious renovations taking place 20 meters from the scene of the crime. It has finally taken the intervention of the Kolkata High Court to step in and ask why the ousted principal of the Arjikar College was transferred to another college where it took students to block his office, lock his office, and prevent him from coming. But the court wondered why such a man had not been shunted out permanently. The court has now asked him to stay at home. Meanwhile, the parents of the murdered doctor have started reinforcing in court what the doctors are saying. They say they suspect their daughter was gang raped. They say that more killers, more rapists are out there. The father has shared details about how he was made to wait for 3 hours before he was allowed to briefly have a glimpse at the body of his daughter, take one photograph, and then shunt it out again. Will justice be served? The details are almost too chilling to repeat, and yet repeat them we must. Even as women across India want to reclaim the night ahead of India's Independence Day, women in India are asking, what about our freedom? What about our dignity? What about our respect? I want to introduce our guests on the program today. This is a very difficult issue to report on, even for somebody like me who has seen unimaginable horrors in the last 30 years. It's bone chilling to read about the details. I want to bring back to the program Dr. Raja Dhar. He first shared those critical details on our program with the country, talking about the multiple pelvic fractures that raised the suspicions in the minds of the medical community that this was a gang rape. And again, I'm repeating that only one man has been arrested so far. Also joining us today to talk from the perspective of being a young woman doctor, Dr. Sakshi Chaudhary. Welcome to the program, Sakshi. Also joining us is Dr. Arjun Dasgupta. He's a senior ENT consultant. Welcome to the program. What next for the medical community? The protests are only deepening and widening. They're not being called off. And also joining us from Kolkata today, because this is not just about doctors, it's about women, not just in West Bengal, but women everywhere, is Diya Jaiswal. She is a life coach and counselor based out of her home city of Kolkata. Thank you very much, everybody. Dr. Dhar, I'll start with you and I'll pick up where we had actually left off. Dr. Dhar, when we were talking last time, you spoke about the multiple pelvic fractures. You spoke about your sense that this was not the work of one man. The family has repeated that. The family's lawyers have repeated that in court now. Many different and horrible details have been placed before the court. Legs wrenched open at 90 degrees, a broken pelvic girdle, the multiple fractures that you referenced, the semen samples and the questions that they raise. Again, I will ask you, if this is a gang rape, as you believe the medical evidence suggests, then what we are really looking at is a situation where only one of the possible culprits have been caught and the others are still out there, possibly even within RG Medical College itself, since many believe this to be an inside job. So now imagine that there are women in that hospital today, and possibly the rapists and the killers are also in that hospital today. So your thoughts, Dr. Dhar?
So, Barkha, I think I'll reiterate what I said the other day. I think there are multiple people involved. I don't think a crime of such horrific magnitude could have been done by a single person. I'm not sure why it's taken this long to identify the fact that there are multiple people, and why people have not been identified, and why people have not been questioned. I think for people to think, I mean, this is a lady who's actually had this act committed within the within her own department, within the seminar room, where all the people who identified her would be healthcare workers, doctors. So I'm not sure where the question of suicide came in the first place. I'm not sure why people would not identify that this lady has been murdered rather than there being suicide. Why something the medical fraternity throughout the country, journalists like yourself, can easily identify the fact that multiple people have been involved. Why one arrest told people that that is enough. We don't need to look any further, and just trying to isolate this one person in 24 hours and saying, okay, our job is done. I don't think that suffices. I don't think that justifies the work that needed to be done. We're 5 days down the line. I think there are people at large. I agree with you that these people could be anywhere, including within the campus of RG Hospital. And I think the efforts to try and identify these people, A, for justice to be done, but more importantly, to make sure that these people don't roam around loose in whichever community, be that within the hospital, outside the hospital, that these people roam around and put other women's life at risk, is something that needs to be ensured as soon as possible.
I'm glad you raised the point, Dr. Dhar, that the parents were initially told by the administration that that their daughter had died by suicide. It's absolutely shocking, because the fact is that the administration would have known the condition in which the body was recovered, and they basically lied to the parents, and we'll come to that later. But I just want you to elaborate on this point that you made, that there is a kind of resistance to accepting that there was more than one accused. You know, there's obviously an attempt to say that, okay, look, we've got the main guy, life can move on. Medical evidence points to a gang rape. Medical evidence points to multiple perpetrators, and I am repeating this: those perpetrators are out there. Does that terrify you? Does that worry you? That right now we have not seen, now it's with the CBI, but we've not seen anyone come out and say, look, we've got one guy, there are others, we're hunting them down. You know, if this is an insider job, if anybody has any leads, please share them with us. We aren't officially yet talking about multiple perpetrators, and I find that very concerning, Dr. Thad.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you, Barkha. I think the acknowledgement, I think it sometimes takes time to identify people in a crime of this magnitude. And I think it's important to be sure rather than trying to expedite things. However, having said that, I think the acknowledgement that, yes, we have arrested one person, there are more at large, and we're looking for them. This is what we have done. These are the steps that we have taken to identify that person, is something which is required. That's the basic. And then you can move forward and tell people what steps are being adopted to try and identify the other perpetrators of the crime. I think to try and sort of say, I have done my job, it's done, it's one person. We have found enough forensic proof to make sure that it is this one person. And then resting on your laurels so as to say is not done in this situation. I think hopefully with CBI coming in, this situation will change dramatically.
Dr. Arjun Das Gupta, let me bring you in. You know, Dr. Dhar has framed this conversation for us. There was more than one man. That's what the evidence suggests, whether it's the semen samples, whether it is the nature of the injuries, whether it is the multiple fractures. But I have seen many young doctors, many friends from Calcutta speak about how they believe that this could be an inside job. And that is even more blood curdling, to think that within the premises of the same college, outside of which its doctors, its students are protesting, could be the perpetrators or the other perpetrators of this crime. Dr. Dasgupta, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I agree with you, Barka. I will tell you exactly. Let's just remind ourselves, as you have already told to the national audience, that what the gravity of the situation involved. A horrible rape and murder of a young girl trainee in her workplace, in a seminar room, in a hospital in the middle of the city is unheard of. In Forget about Calcutta, forget about West Bengal, forget about India. I mean, these things we haven't heard ever. So just realizing the gravity of the situation, what should have happened? What should have happened is within hours, the responsible people would have resigned, the principal would have resigned, the MSVP would have resigned, all the Department of Pulmonology, the heads would have resigned, and the new principal would have come in and ordered a probe and ordered an FIR saying it's a rape and murder, and the police would have started, questioned, collected the DNA samples, and closed in on the assailants. This took us intense protest and of the whole of the country and nationwide doctors protest and other women good protest to achieve it in 4 days. So 4 days are lost, and we have a kind of a para police civic volunteer, as we call them, a guy arrested, and nothing else. So um, everybody, I mean, as I was telling somebody yesterday, that the generation that we come from, me or Dr. Rajat, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have WhatsApp, we didn't have 24-hour news channel, we didn't have social media, but we knew everything. We sat at the college canteen and we knew everything. This girl is going away out with that boy. This boy has taken these junior doctors to the restaurants. This doctor hasn't worked at all. He's still getting praised by the head of the department. We knew everything about the hospital. I simply refuse to believe that nobody knew anything about it in Archigod. Of course, people knew about it, but the situation and the words were not coming out. Why not coming out? Now we know there was a reign of fear among the Archigod residents, among the whole atmosphere. The people are not opening the mouth. Now, since that have changed from yesterday, hopefully people will come out and yes, reiterate that what we already believe, and probably we don't have evidence, but we will believe that people will open their mouth and tell us that this cannot be done without somebody from inside or somebody from outside. Whatever it is, there needs to be brought to the justice as quickly as possible because we are losing time and
Yeah.
we are losing DNA evidence and everything.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up because I want to talk a little bit about this ousted principal Sandeep Ghosh, right? Because you said a reign of fear in RG car. People would have had to know. We have lost critical time. We have seen today, and I want to play those shots. A video has surfaced. Imagine a rape and murder has taken place in your college, and 20 meters from that, what is happening? Renovation. I am not joking. We have pictures, if we can please play them. We have pictures of renovation. Renovation that is taking place. It is being called renovation. The police has called a halt to this. It has triggered the fear that evidence is being tampered with. Let's play those shots again. 20 meters from the scene of crime, we are seeing so-called repair work taking place. And Dr. Dasgupta, as you mentioned, time is being lost and evidence is being possibly tampered with. Also, this Sandeep Ghosh, instead of resigning immediately, he first blames the victim. Then, when there is uproar, he resigns. But guess what? He doesn't lose his job. He is in fact reposted to another college where students ensure that he cannot take over. Dr. Dasgupta, how shocked are you by this Sandeep Ghosh and the fact that it took the High Court to say this man has to stay at home? We don't want to see him in another college. He has to stay at home.
um, you don't have to just believe my words. You just have to read the transcript of yesterday's case, where the Chief
Yeah.
Justice of the High Court of Kolkata has reiterated when the girl died, the case was done on undisclosed death. I mean, this, UD as they call it. This is done when there is nobody complains or nobody suspects any foul play involved. And what do you mean? I mean, no foul play involved. I mean, the horrific details that are coming out, the way the girl was found. Of course, there was a. So, why did not this principal or the superintendent lodge a FIR, as is the norm of the institution immediately with the police. And
Yeah.
he makes a drama of resigning, and within hours has given a prize posting in, unfortunately, my home college. And students there stood up with a "Go Back" slogan, and then the High Court has said that he has to be sent on a long wait. And if you
Yeah.
read this Chief Justice's each and every judgment, you will know. I will use the our Chief Justice's exact words: "The cat is out of the bag. Now nothing could be done. Give this case to CBI." I mean, this is exactly the cover up, the attempt to cover up, and the point when you think that you can't be outraged enough, and you see there was a renovation work started at 10 o'clock in the night in the hospital, 20 meters from the crime scene, which is seed. And what do you think about that? I'm really
I
grateful.
yeah.
I'm
I
really
want to add.
grateful to the.
To the court. You're really grateful to the court and the Chief Justice for making sure this man stays at home. I want to add one more point. The court also pointed out that a government lawyer came to defend this principle in court. That's the first point. And they said, is he that influential? Evidently, he is. Because guess what a former colleague is saying? He said he was like the mafia. He used to walk around with bouncers. I want to just play out that clip to get a better sense of who was entrusted to run this medical college. Take a look.
वो बहुत ही करप्टेड आदमी है। वो आरजीकर मेडिकल कॉलेज में स्टूडेंट लोगों को फेल कराना, टेंडर ऑर्डर दे करके 20% कमीशन लेना, और ये हॉस्टल वगैरह अलॉटमेंट में पैसा लेना, और स्टाफ सिलेक्शन कमीशन। मतलब आरजीकर में जो भी काम होता था, पोस्टिंग हो, ट्रांसफर हो, हाउस स्टाफशिप हो, सब जगह वो पैसा खाते थे। सिर्फ यही नहीं, गेस्ट हाउस में जूनियर जो स्टूडेंट है उन लोगों को बैठ करके शराब वगैरह पिलाते थे, और उन स्टूडेंट लोगों से आंदोलन भी करवाते थे। मतलब एक माफिया राजा बोल सकते हैं। मैंने अपनी पूरे कैरियर में इतना गंदा इंसान नहीं देखा। और वो खुद उनकी सिक्योरिटी के लिए 20 आदमी था, प्लस 4 आदमी बाउंसर को लेके चलते थे। हमने तो फिल्म स्टार को देखा बाउंसर लेके चलते हुए, किसी प्रिंसिपल को अपनी जिंदगी में नहीं देखा।
And comments are coming in. Dia, I'll just come to you. But Leena Pandey says the first 24 to 48 hours are super critical for the police to collect as much evidence as possible instead of locking down the area to avoid contamination. There is work happening close by. How bizarre. Prasad says, if a police volunteer is the main arrested suspect, who can the people trust? We all depend on the police for safety. Is the police also involved in this case? Many questions piling up. Dia, as a young woman in Kolkata, or as a woman in Kolkata, any age, doesn't matter, young or old. I know women are planning a mass protest, a mass sit-in to reclaim the night. And the reason that women are doing this is because this horrible man, I'm rarely judgmental, I never use words like this, but I'm saying it today, this horrible ousted principal blamed the victim. On his watch, the administration first lies to the parents and says that your daughter died by suicide. And then he gets a plum transfer. Now the court has made him sit at home, but he blamed the victim in the beginning to say, why was she there in the middle of the night by herself after she had worked a 36-hour shift? Dia, as a woman from Bengal, from India, it doesn't matter. Geography is really irrelevant. How do you feel this evening?
So firstly, Barkha, thank you for having me. And I think, it's not just me. I think the whole city, the whole nation, I think everybody has such a deep sense of anguish at this point. Kolkata is known as the city of joy. Kolkata is known as the safest place for women. I think this one incident has just shattered that completely. I think today we all need to know exactly what happened on that day. Also, I want to add, Barkha, as a woman in the workforce today, and I have 2 daughters out in the workforce. So when as a mother, as a nurturer, you send your child, your daughter out to work, what are the things you worry about? You assume that the workplace is going to be completely safe, right? So what do? You tell your daughter, let me know once you reach work, let me know once you leave work. You're probably tracking them on the Uber, tracking the driver's numbers. You're taking care of things outside of their workplace because you assume that at the workplace, they're going to be completely safe. That's what happened with our young doctor too. After she had worked double shift, she called her mother. And what was it that she said to her mother? don't worry, I'm going to eat something, and don't worry, I'm going to get some rest, right? These are the two things that mothers and families would be worried about. You can never imagine that in that workplace, which we all assume is so safe, and we go ourselves, we send our children into, something like this can happen. So immediate action has to be taken. I have full faith in our system. I have faith in the machinery. And I think we have to work together as citizens with the government, and we have to, take the perpetrators to task. They need to be punished as heinously as the crime is. We have to set an example, because the buck has to stop here right now.
And I want to pick this up, this point that you made, that when you send your daughters or yourselves into the workforce, work is supposed to be a safe space. Work is meant to be where you pursue dreams outside of your home spaces. It is not meant to be there are issues with public safety, but work is meant to be, you have your home and you have your work, and work is meant to be a safe space. And if work is not safe there, one of the things that I want to bring in, Dr. Sakshi, here, we are already grappling with women's participation in the workforce declining in our country. On the one hand, we have women making headlines. There are women, in women wanting to fly fighter jets and are flying fighter jets. They are in command on warships, right? They are covering wars like me. There are no barriers to what women want to do and can do. But if we are not treated with safety, and then we are paternalized. So, Sakshi, before you respond, there was a notification out in a hospital in Silchar. It's now been taken back. It had a list of do's and don'ts for women doctors. Be careful, don't go here alone, wahan mat jana, yahan mat jana, aise mat karna, aise mat bolna. And then everybody protested, and it's been thankfully scrapped. Now, this is the problem. Safety to women does not mean infantilizing us. Safety to women does not mean tie us up in more chains. And safety to women doesn't mean that we can't do the same things, can't walk in the same spaces as men, can't go alone to the seminar hall of the college in which we work. It is absolutely unacceptable that that should be your way to keep us safe. As a woman doctor today, Sakshi, what do you want people to understand of what you go through?
Actually, in hospitals in whole Delhi, pan Delhi strike is there with all the for all the elective procedures, no OPDs, no OT services. Everything is banned for not just for that one girl. It's for all the girls in the worldwide. Actually, not only in India, whole of the world. All girls. First, we have to teach our boys not to do that before the girl. If boys know what to do and what not to do, girls are safe. They are in the safest end. That's not an issue. But for going to a work, I'm also living in a hostel, I'm also working in a hospital. How can I say I'm safe here? Just my mom just called, you reached? Yeah, I reached. But how can they be so sure that I'm safe here or not? I'm safe here in the hospital or not? No one is, means they are not aligning up with the yeah, we are safe. Every time they have to call, okay, fine, everything is fine, yeah, fine. But for how long? We don't know. So that we want justice on the fast track court basis. That's why we asked for the government to handle the case over to the CBI, so that it will go to the fast track court cases.
But can I ask you, आपके लिए सबसे मुश्किल चीज क्या है? Being a woman in the medical professions, what is सबसे मुश्किल क्या है? What is the most difficult thing?
Most difficult thing is at the night time when the patient come, and one patient come with 3-4 attendants, and we don't know how they are, how they behave. Sometimes they fight, sometimes they argue. They don't think of as doctor that we are working in the night, it's also our sleep time, but we are working for you, but you don't understand us. We have many patients to whom we have to make them understand, but that you have to do this, but they won't listen, they just fight over.
Sakshi, can I ask you something? Yeah. Can I ask you something? After what's happened in Kolkata, will it be tougher for women to convince their families? I know it's sad that we have to convince our families, but ये सच्चाई है, ये सच्चाई है, ये हमारी देश की सच्चाई है. क्या अब ये मुश्किल होगा औरतों को अपने परिवारों को मनाना कि मुझे डॉक्टर बनना है?
No, it's not. अभी तब से ये हुआ है, मैंने मेरे पेरेंट्स को पूरा केस बताया, तब से बेटा तुम सेफ हो, बेटा तुम सेफ हो या नहीं, उनके 10 बार कॉल आते हैं, पूछते हैं क्या है क्या नहीं है। अब लड़कियों को बाहर जाके काम करना भी, नॉट एज अ डॉक्टर, जस्ट इट्स नॉट जस्ट अबाउट डॉक्टर्स, इट्स अबाउट एनी गर्ल वर्किंग एनीवेयर,
That's
wherever
right.
a guy is working or a girl is working, environment must be safe for them.
Yeah, आपने
We
ये बहुत
are doing
जरूरी
work
बात
for you.
की that it's not just about doctors, Diya. It's not just about doctors. Before I come back to Dr. Dhar and Dr. Dasgupta, Dr. Sakshi's made a very important point. ये सिर्फ doctors की बात नहीं है. एक औरत कहीं भी, now see, there are jobs that are not structured. My job is one of them. हमारे job में shifts नहीं चलते हैं. हमारा 9 to 5 job नहीं है. News can break at any hour. We go into calamities, we go into war zones, we go into riot areas. We can't, as women, start saying, you know, when I went to Kargil 25 years ago, I couldn't say, oh, this space is not safe for women, I won't go. Women are ready to face equal challenges, but on a level playing field. And it is not a level playing field if our workspace is not safe for us. So this is not just about doctors. This is about all of us. Dia?
I agree completely, Barkha. And in fact, I think moving forward, we have to also know now what can we do to keep the women safer at the workplaces. And I had a suggestion, which it just struck me while you were talking, and you mentioned, people, women working not just in hospitals, and people. There are girls working in hotels, in the airports. There are many areas where girls do double shift, etc. And the security is amazing at an airport. So maybe we need to replicate that kind of security in a hospital too. I believe they have a 3-tier system of security. Maybe we need to look at that for a hospital. The other point I want to add is sometimes on an airline, when the crew is doing a long haul flight, they have these safe cabins, these little compartments where the crew goes, the male and female, and they go and rest. They have a place to rest. We have to also have these kind of spaces available, whether it is in our hotels or in our hospitals, for female and male doctors, staff, anybody to go and rest. Why should she have had to go to a seminar room to rest? There has to be a safe place where these doctors and these young people have place to go and rest it out for a couple of hours because they are doing these crazy kind of shifts. So we have to think of solutions now and move forward with how do we do block all these gaps.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, I remember senior women lawyers telling me that when they started appearing in the Supreme Court, there weren't even separate restrooms, bathrooms
Absolutely.
for women. So
Yeah,
we are all of that vintage where we've also seen those years and those struggles. But in 2024, if there isn't a room where a doctor can
horrible.
retreat to and feel safe in her own place of work. But here's the point, Dr. Dhar. In every program, I have not invited a politician because I'm not interested in the politics. I am interested in the safety of women. I'm not interested in the tutu meme. But this perception that the ousted principle was very powerful, that he, as Dr. Das Gupta said, was, able to get another plum posting till the court stopped it. This feeling that in public hospitals, those who are connected to power, and it can be any political party, they're the ones who actually thrive. They're the ones who actually survive. There is that question coming up again and again. But my question to you is, this has not been confirmed, but again and again, there is an allusion to an inside job. People inside are involved. So when Dia or Sakshi talk about a safe room, if the enemy is within, if the perpetrators are within, then there isn't even safety in that safe room on your college campus, Dr. Dhar. So where do we go from here? What do you want to see happen immediately now that the CBI has taken over the case, Dr. Dhar?
So, Barkha, I think I said this in your last program too. I think the first important thing here, the reason we want the criminals identified, is so that people understand that there is going to be a radical punishment which people would remember and fear going forward. I think that's the most important thing. That's why you set an example for people like this, so that the next set of people think of committing a crime which is similar to this, think twice before doing it. That's number one. The second is about politicization that you talked about. I think it's not just in the state of West Bengal, Barkha, it's throughout the country. Unfortunately, there is a political element which is attached to power. It is not related to you being a very good doctor or a very good human being, it is
That's right.
important that you're attached to a political party of whichever color and creed, which
Yeah.
makes you powerful in any setup, be that the medical setup or outside. And unless we have the right balance, unless we don't have politicization across the board as you go forward, I don't think we'll make a difference across institutes, be that medical or non medical. That's the second thing. The third thing you talk about security, I think Sakshi made a very valid point about layers of security. I mean, at the moment, there's not even a veneer of security, let alone 3 layers of security. Anyone can walk into a hospital or anyone can walk into a room at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
And
the
by the way,
reason,
men are subject to that vulnerability as well. We saw it during
absolutely,
COVID, when doctors came under physical violence. But of course, this element of sexual assault, of gang rape, this is, I'm not saying men have never suffered sexual violence, but mostly this is a female, this is peculiar, this is a peculiar and horrible and unacceptable vulnerability of women and ours alone. Dr. Thar.
sure. No, absolutely. I think security is important for doctors across the board. I was saying in an interview in the morning that I think doctors generally have been insecure in various ways than when they have been dealing with patients. And it seems that punishment is the only way forward when you're making laws for doctors. Security always takes the back seat. And I agree with you, Barkha, that in case of women, there's also this added burden of there being sexual misconduct or a rape, for instance, which pushes women back even more. But I think it's very important to understand that while anyone can wander into the hospital, you have to be an insider to know your whereabouts around the department, around the hospital. You need to know where the door is, how to unlock the door, where the lights are, where this woman might be at 3 o'clock in the morning. We
Yeah.
don't know whether this lady was in the seminar room with a plan or whether this was something which happened suddenly. It might be that she told her colleagues, told the nurses, told other healthcare workers that I'm going to go and
Yeah.
rest in the seminar room for a little while. So we don't
Yeah.
know this element of how the person or persons, we think persons, managed to
Yeah.
find the girl in an unprotected state at night. And I would still repeat that there has to be people who have good knowledge of what is going on before they managed to locate the girl and did the act that they committed.
So that's very important. That basically this couldn't be people who randomly walked in from the outside. To know, yes, and a patient can walk in, but to know wo seminar hall kahan tha and this doctor wahan thi, this speaks again to an insider hand. And we cannot stress this enough that if this is a gang rape, as all the experts believe it is, as the parents have now told the court it is, those insiders, those perpetrators could be inside RG Kar Medical College today. And I just want to emphasize that. Now, Dr. Dasgupta, I want to come to you and I want to take it back to the fact that the young doctor's family, imagine, was lied to. Aapne kaha shuru mein, why didn't the principal register an FIR? Forget FIR. The administration lied to the parents and said that their daughter had died by suicide, pointing to a kind of mental health ailment that she may have been fighting. That's the subtext of any suicide. The mother has now gone on record to say that my daughter called me. She was absolutely fine. She said, I'm just having my khana. I'm sitting down for my meals. I'm going to get some rest and I'll call you later. Don't worry. I'm fine. Something happens between the time of that phone call and the next morning when it isn't the parents, it is the hospital that recovers her and then lies to the parents. There is, I'm sorry to say, this smells of a massive attempt at a cover up.
I mean, I will talk about that. I mean, as a parent, I mean, as Dr. Dia said, I'm also a parent. I've got a girl who has passed out from the college and is
Yeah,
working. And as you know, Calcutta has a very good women safety records. So usually when she is late, my wife tells me, she's late today, as Dr. Sakshi will know. And I usually say, oh, don't worry, she can take care of herself. So that
yeah,
when I say, don't worry, she can take care of herself, I don't know, only trust her, my education that I gave to her. I trust my city. I trust the people. So that trust is broken somewhere and shattered. So
yeah,
we have to regain that trust, and that's why we are really looking forward to the women all over the country that doing this reclaim the night tonight, and they will get back the streets back from the goons. So coming back in there, there has to be some standard protocols,
Yeah.
and there has to be some central law, um, not only against doctors, among all the women, working women, and against violence, against doctors and workplace problems. And there really have to be a central law which was promised to us, and hasn't been delivered yet. And we really have to fight for all the working women for a safe place to work in. And even if there is a slightest deviation, there will be stringent punishment to the employers, saying why wasn't there a toilet, why wasn't there a restroom, why wasn't this, why has to girl, as Dr. Dia said, has to sleep in the seminar room, why wasn't there a resting place? The National
Yeah.
Medical Commissions inspects each and every hospitals, and one of the first and foremost, and Dr. Dhar is also involved in that. When
Yeah.
they go there on foot, on the ground, they inspect the hospital, and they see there is a on-call room with a bathroom and with a lock, with a chitkini, as we call it. You put a lock on the door. Is that too
Yeah.
much to ask for? So when National Medical Commission inspected the pulmonology department of Archicor Medical College, what was their finding? We need to know. We need
Yeah.
to know. There are checks and balances, and people have failed us in each and every
But
state. And all
I
of
think
them have to be questioned.
I think Dr. Dharis want you to come in, but I think it's quite moving what you said, that as a father, it isn't that just that you empower your daughter, you also trust the city, you also trust her workplace, you trust the community for her to be safe. I just want to go back to that suicide point, and then I'll allow the others to come in. Were you shocked to discover that the parents had been told by the hospital, Dr. Dasgupta, that this was suicide?
I was horrified. I was
Yeah.
horrified, and you have been kind enough not to go into the details. The father has to
Yes.
wait for 3 hours to
Yeah.
receive the body, and I mean, this is natural. It's a high-profile murder and the rape case. It has to be done by multiple pathologists, forensic scientists, by on a on-camera examination. The magistrate has to be present, and if the body was forcibly taken away in the night and cremated, so there is no chance of a second autopsy. So of course we were suspecting cover up, and then there were, after 4 days, when the court ordered the CBI, it handed over to the CBI. Then we see a renovation work starting in the middle of the night. I mean, if we suspect there is a cover up going on, would we be wrong in suspecting? They have to be
Yeah.
questioned. Who gave away the body? We know that we can't just sign away the body to police. We have to give the body to the family. Who signed the body? Who gave away the body? Who received the body? The body went to Sodhpur and waited for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes because the family was there in the police station, and the neighbors were there around the years, and the police were cordoned off that area, and the family couldn't. They went there after half an hour, and they taken to the cremation room and cremated in the middle of the night. What was the rush? Why did it happen? And
Yeah.
what was the system was being followed by 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, the standard procedure laid down by the Supreme Court and the law in a such high profile rape and murder cases to follow. None of them are followed. Why not?
I, I I'm so glad you have brought up the bit about the father being made to wait for 3 hours. Not he had to plead to get a glimpse of the face of his daughter's body, but the fact that the body was forcibly taken away at night, this mad rush to cremate it, Doctor Dhar. Once that body is cremated in this manner, evidence is lost. Let's be very clear. Evidence is lost. Why wasn't the why wasn't the body kept in a mortuary for forensics? I don't understand, Dr. Thad.
Yeah. So I'll come to that. I'll just add something to what Dr. Dasgupta mentioned, which I think is very relevant before I go to this point. So, in all civilized countries in the world, you don't get doctors working for 36-hour shifts. Nowhere in the world do you get 36-hour shifts. Um, I mean, it's not just for the safety of the doctor. Of course, it's for the safety of the doctor, but it's also for the safety of the patient. If you're working for 36 hours and you're reasonably busy, you cannot impart the same degree of proficiency in doing what you're supposed to do if you're working those hours. So I think we also need to step back and ask that question: why are we still getting our juniors, our youngsters, our trainees to work for 36 hours? Which is why all these questions of restrooms, etc., come in. Doctors overtiring themselves, working overtime, not giving out quality care is something that I also wanted to emphasize on.
It's a good point, but I take the point, and it's an important point to raise. But the rush with which this body was
Sure.
cremated,
Yeah.
right?
Sure, Barkha.
It is smelling more and more of a cover up by the authorities at the RG Card College, led by the now sacked, earlier only transferred principal Sandeep Ghosh. Dr. Thar, when the body is cremated, in such a situation, the body should have been in a mortuary, kept for forensics, because now evidence of this gang rape, we can't further investigate this body because the body is
Correct.
burned, right?
Correct. Absolutely. So I think taking specimen, taking tissue, being able to go back to the body again when you think of other samples that need to be taken, making sure that you collect further samples based on what you found on the initial samples that have been collected. All of these are questions we need answered. There's other questions too, Barkha, which I think are important. So questions about what has happened to the fellow interns, the fellow doctors who actually did the night shift with her. Who's questioned them? And if they've been questioned, where are their statements? Why was this lady, why did people not go out and look for this girl during the course of the night when she was supposedly resting in her on-call room? I mean, in the seminar room. We don't know the answer. So I think everywhere there seems to be a degree of hush up in what's happened. The sequence of events is full of gaps. We don't really know how to fill these gaps are, and these should be gaps which are filled up relatively easily. These are questions which should be basic. The first set of questioning that happens should have been these questions: the people who did the on-call with her, the nurses who did the on-call with her, the people who had the key to the seminar room, for instance. Where are those people? Who has spoken to them? What are their answers? I think there's lots of unanswered questions. There's more questions than answers, really.
Honestly, Dr. Sakshi, the protests are not just in Bengal, they're everywhere. Because I think young doctors like yourself have understood कि कल ये आज एक डॉक्टर के साथ कोलकाता में हुआ, कल ये हमारे साथ हो सकता है. And between Dr. Dhar and Dr. Dasgupta, I want to just recap the horror. Dr. Dasgupta said, I was being kind. I am feeling so angry, Dr. Dasgupta, that I want to again and again say that the parents were lied to. They were told it was suicide. The FIR was not filed. The father had to beg to see his own daughter's body. The body was found in a state of complete brokenness with multiple fractures, with legs wrenched open. He was able to take one picture, one photograph, and he was shunted out. The cremation was done forcibly in the cover of the night. Evidence has been lost with that. The next morning, you have 20 meters from the scene of the crime, you have so-called renovations being done. The principal first blames the victim, then he resigns, claiming moral responsibility, but he gets another job within 12 hours. Within 12 hours, semen samples point to more than one rapist. The multiple fractures point to more than one rapist. The statements of the interns who did the night shift that night, or the fellow medical colleagues, we don't know what they said. It all points to an insider hand. It all points to a cover-up. I am in no mood to be kind to anybody. I think what has happened is not just the crime itself, but the cover-up smacks of a crime as large. Sakshi, why are doctors everywhere in India protesting?
In India, doctors are protesting because of that girl. We are protesting just for three things: justice, safety, and protection. We need justice as soon as possible, as soon as and we want the brutal. Hang up that person, those persons who gang raped that girl, to be hanged till die in front of the public, so that from now on, any person, any male or anyone who thinks of this thing should not be able to think about that. Even think about that. करना तो बहुत दूर की बात है. इस तरह से उन्हें सजा मिलनी चाहिए, जो ये चाहे इनसाइडर्स हो चाहे आउटसाइडर्स हो।
मैं आपसे कुछ पूछना चाहती हूँ, कभी लगता है कि मैं डॉक्टर क्यों बनी? कभी लगता है ऐसी जब चीजें होती हैं? एंड यस, इट्स नॉट अबाउट डॉक्टर्स, इट्स अबाउट वुमेन एवरीवेयर. समटाइम्स आई थिंक आई हैव लॉस्ट काउंट ऑफ द नंबर ऑफ सेक्सुअल वायलेंस केसेस आई हैव रिपोर्टेड इन द लास्ट 30 years. बट कभी लगता है कि यू नो व्हाट, आई मेड अ मिस्टेक, आई एम नॉट रिस्पेक्टेड?
यस मैम, बहुत बार लगता है. But we are in this profession, we have to serve the people. We cannot do anything about it. We are doctors, we are there to help people, but not to feel brutality.
मतलब दिल टूटता है आपकी बात सुनकर कि बहुत बार जब लगता है, तो क्यों लगता है, जनरली क्यों लगता है? जब आपको लगता है कि मैं डॉक्टर क्यों बनी साक्षी, तो वो क्या मोमेंट्स होते हैं?
मैम मूवमेंट्स क्या भाई, मीन्स एक्स्ट्रा ड्यूटी आवश्यक है, रेस्ट रूम्स नहीं है कई हॉस्पिटल्स में, मीन्स पेशेंट्स बदतमीजी से बात करते हैं, कोई पेशेंट डेड हो गया, एक डॉक्टर से ज्यादा दुख किसी को नहीं लगता है जब उसका पेशेंट जाता है, सबसे ज्यादा दुख डॉक्टर को ही लगता है, बट वी कैन नॉट शो देम क्योंकि हमें बाकी पेशेंट्स भी देखने हैं. इसीलिए इट्स ओके, we are doctors, we are supporting our doctor, and first of all I am supporting one girl जिसके साथ बहुत brutal rape and brutal murder हुआ है. It's
Absolutely.
not in her safe workplace. और जहाँ पे बहुत सारी बातों को, जैसा कि आप लोगों ने बताया कि इतना दबाया गया है, इतना गैप से सर ने बताया, गैप से ये सब चीजें कौन आंसर्स करेगा, पर कल को किसी के भी साथ होता है दूसरी बार, फिर कौन करेगा? इसलिए हम स्ट्राइक कॉल ऑफ नहीं करना चाहते.
Dia, I have to start taking closing comments now. As a woman in the, what are women all around you in Calcutta feeling today?
So like I said, Barkha, the whole Calcutta was called the city of joy. Calcutta was the safest place in the world. We all thought that. We used to wear that badge with a lot of pride. That's shattered, I think, forever. And it's going to take a lot to build that confidence back. And I wanted to add one more point, Barkha, since you were talking about the people within the premises and how safe are they. In this particular case also, this Roy, he himself has a criminal record, and yet he was being allowed to work as on the premises. So that itself, I think we missed some signs right there. So we need to do proper background checks for those who we are allowing into our premises where we have people working, men and women. It's not just about women, it's also about men.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give the last two words to Dr. Dasgupta and Dr. Thar. Dr. Dasgupta, thank you for centrally placing the hush up around the cremation of the body. Ab kya hoga? What next? Are you hopeful of finding the other perpetrators?
I think what should have happened within hours of that horrible incident has happened after 4 days, but still has happened. Still, there is enough evidence, and if the CPI wants to make a case and not hush up with like other cases, they can find a case. Now, this principal has been sent on a long leave, so the hand on the atmosphere of fear is somehow diluted. So people have already started to speak up, and this is the age of, we don't have like chai ka dukan ka rumor or bus stop ka rumor to nahi hai. Now we have WhatsApp, we have social media, and horrors are pouring out of the hospital. Horrors are pouring out, and you can't at this age believe all of them. But hopefully they will be filtered and more reason, because somebody knew something in there. Not somebody. My suspicion is a lot of people knew a lot of things. It can't happen over a day. Just a small bit of thing. I don't know whether you guys know or not that the girl's car was vandalized that night. Which
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Mom said she has bought a new car, and which was parked in the hospital, that has been vandalized. And if the seminar room didn't have CCTV, of course the car was vandalized, had CCTV. So whoever did that are the criminals, or the criminal or criminals, and they are directly linked to the crime. So there is enough horrible things coming out of that hospital, and hopefully we can clean that up and move on with their life. And all the power to all the girls. Girls, go and
Yeah,
reclaim your city, reclaim the night. It's yours as well as ours.
yeah,
So go, please do that. We need it from
yeah.
you.
Absolutely. Sakshi ji, आप कुछ बोलना चाह रही थी before I give Dr. Dhar the last word. Sakshi. नहीं, साक्षी की आवाज नहीं आ रही मुझे. हाँ, आप बोलिए.
हाँ जी. अभी सरकार के द्वारा एक मीम्स चला था, बेटी पढ़ाओ बेटी बचाओ. बेटी पढ़ाई, बेटी डॉक्टर बनाई, बट बेटी बचा नहीं पाए. So sad, really so sad.
So sad. It is just so sad. Dr. Dhar, I'm going to give you the last word. I did not actually, I had missed this detail that the car was vandalized, but you're right. The mother had said it. It comes back to me now. Smacks of a cover up, smacks of no SOP being followed, smacks of an inside hand, deeply cynical moment for all of us. What next? Is there enough evidence in that autopsy report to still nail who did this, or is critical DNA in a sense lost because the body is burnt? Dr.
So I think, Barkha, in the middle of all the cynicism, we've actually moved forward in the last 4 days. In spite of all the cover-up, in spite of all the hush-ups, the country has got together, the globe has got together, and with all of what you guys are doing, what we are doing, the movements that are happening, women going out tonight, I think the pressure needs to be maintained the way it's been maintained. I think the tempo has to be maintained, the positivity has to be maintained, and we need to make sure that there is no slackness in the system, irrespective of who is investigating this particular act of crime. And I think everyone has said there has to be exemplary punishment for this, and measures of security need to be adopted going forward. And I think if this pressure is maintained, if what's happening, in spite of all the resistance, in spite of all the gaps, if we can keep this tempo, we will achieve what we are setting out to achieve in the not so distant future.
Yes, I think we must end on that note of hope, of pushback, of the fact that women are planning a midnight sit-in, not just in Kolkata, but across India, to not just express solidarity with the victim of this horrific gang rape and murder, but also to demand the safety for themselves, for each one of us. And men are supporting them in this, which is also a note of hope to end on. Men like Dr. Das Gupta and Dr. Dhar. Thank you. It has been a grim conversation. I pride myself on never showing my opinion in shows that I host, but in this I make an exception because my blood is boiling at what has happened. Women have to fight so many battles, societal battles, sometimes their own home, sometimes their own parents, to pursue their dreams. And then to have this happen to them at their place of work is unacceptable. And then to have that covered up in the most brazen way possible. Everything that has taken place in this particular incident has compounded the crime. But as Dr. Dhar said, we must end on a note of belief that if the pressure is not slackened, then the perpetrators will be nailed. Dr. Das Gupta, Dr. Dhar, Diya Jaiswal, Dr. Sakshi, thank you for your time today, and to the audience, thank you, and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.